Welcome to the No Sour Ha Ha Fun Time Power Hour.
You need some whoop 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 boing. You know?
Moving Wisconsin forward, one joke at a time. This is Kristen Bry with As Goes Wisconsin.
Yada, yada, yada.
Hello, Wisconsin!
Mom and Dad's Nipple Factory. Who knew that nipple was such a fun word to say, but it is. And we heard about this film a little bit last week when we talked to Christopher Pollard, who is from the Milwaukee Film Festival. And he told us, and it was funny because I had actually been emailing with Mom and Dad's Nipple Factory director and one of the producers that day. But Christopher said that was the opening night film for the film festival, which starts tomorrow. And now we actually have the director of the film. Justin Superstar is here in studio.
Thank you. I brought my nipples as well.
Oh,
Me
did you bring some extra nipples for everybody?
I do actually have show and tell. I know it won't work for the listeners, but I do have a nipple in my wallet for whenever you guys are ready.
Okay. All right. Well, we do have a live stream video component. So there are some people who will be able to benefit from.
We'll save it for the end. We want it to be a tease, right?
Yeah, that's a nipple tease.
I wasn't going to say it, but you did.
I was trying to set you up.
So
Justin knows what he's doing, man.
all right. So this is a documentary, not a porno. But no, so it's a documentary and it's about your family. And so I want to, before we get into a lot of the parts of the film and what it was like to film it, I'd love to hear it start first, just more on you, because you had a whole career as a filmmaker before you ventured into putting your family on camera. And so you're from Eau Claire. And so how did you end up in the movie business?
Oh, man. I mean, I've been doing video and internet video for the last 25 years. So I was one of the original video bloggers, putting my life online in like the year 2000 when people were like afraid to put their credit cards online. I'm like, here's my friends, we're hanging out. And, you know, the 20 people who would download an internet video and watch it enjoyed it. So I've really just been passionate about creative for my whole life. I ended up working at a startup in New York. We were acquired by Google, worked at Google for a little while, ended up quitting that because, you know, I'm just a very practical person who wants a job at Google, right? And moving to LA and just becoming a full-time creative because my job at Google was to kind of train up other YouTubers to be better at YouTube.
Oh.
And so this is actually my second feature doc, but I've done tons of branded content and really created all types of things from A to Z. But I think it's sort of, I say this film in a lot of ways is like my revenge on my dad because for better or worse, he was always filming us as kids. So we grew up, I'm the oldest of 5. My parents raised us on $12,000 a year.
Oh, wow.
So we grew up real scrappy, but dad would always borrow video cameras from people at the church to be able to capture these little, very sweet vignettes of life, whatever, you know, casual life we had at home with 5 screaming kids. But it became this incredible resource as I made this film to look back through the years of our family life and really enrich the story we're trying to tell with the film itself. So I started with this as a short, and then it wasn't until my dad sat down. I didn't think he was even going to talk to me because this man is extremely shy. And he sat down for a 2-hour interview with me. And I was like, oh my God, this is a feature film. And that was back in 2018. And then the journey was off from there.
So let's back up. So you made one other feature doc. Then this wasn't kind of in your back pocket, or was it? As far as like, I have this story about my family and I know it's going to make a good movie, but like, or when did that light bulb kind of happen?
It's been 8 years I've been working on this.
Okay.
So quite a while. And really the discovery of this business for my siblings wasn't really probably until like 2012, 2013. And it still was a thing that
the
not
business
a lot
being
of us,
your family's, your parents'
my
business.
parents' nipple factory, nipple business. Yeah, it wasn't until that. And it was always this thing where I don't know what it is. I feel like it was easier for me to like say, let's make a short documentary about this than it was for me just to ask. Sometimes you need like an excuse, right? So like the documentary was really a vessel initially for me just as a curious person to get access to the nipple laboratory, which is not as fancy as it sounds. It's literally my sister's old bedroom in the house we grew up in, to get access and discover more about this really kind of quirky, unexpected venture from my parents. And yeah, it was around 2015. I started filming what I thought would be a short and really struggling with like, what's the core of this story? And it wasn't until I honed in on this really being it's not a story about a business. It's my parents' love story. It's a story about becoming whole again. Once I unlock that, then I'm like, okay, I can proceed and figure out what this thing is.
So for people who maybe are not aware, what is the story? So it's kind of, I think maybe that you can assume from just the title, but what is the business? What is the story? And that's the core of the film that was the thread that you started to pull?
Yeah, so my mom had breast cancer and had a unilateral mastectomy in 2007. And my parents' dynamic is that my dad is this extremely shy, extremely introverted, but very creative problem solver. And he always was solving problems for the family through like weird little innovations, as well as starting small businesses as we were growing up. I kind of describe him as like the dad from Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. It's like that kind of vibe, right?
Nice.
Rick Moranis.
There we go. And if we ever make a feature narrative of this, like Rick Moranis would be a great person to play my dad. Just saying, Rick, if your people are listening, please, text me.
Beautiful.
So yeah, after my mom and my parents are deeply conservative Christian, I don't think my dad ever said the word nipple to us growing up, right? It's a little bit of sense of, especially in America, impropriety there and privacy and whatnot. So my mom had a reconstruction. And one thing that was pretty shocking to me to learn, cancer, of course, it affects so many people. And for better or worse, it's a major industry. And so many elements of the treatment and even breast reconstruction is sorted out. But there's the cosmetic side of it, where it's like, okay, you have the rebuilt breast mound area. And then with unilateral, you still have your original. And so you have tattoos, but they're two-dimensional. There's no texture there. And there were a lot of other options for prosthetics, but they wouldn't match your original one. And so you'd always have this feeling of asymmetry or incompleteness. And this was something where my mom is like the woman of my dad's dreams. Like their relationship is just so beautiful. And they're such extreme opposites because my mom is loves people, this major extrovert, just like always wants to be out doing stuff. And my dad's like, let's just stay inside and, not do anything. And so it's this beautiful dynamic. And so when my dad saw how she felt, he really took it upon himself because nothing else, especially in 2007, 2008, there was nothing on the market that was good enough for the woman of his dreams. And so this led to kind of them being challenged by their plastic surgeon. Like, hey, there's nothing else out there. And my dad's like, can I try to figure it out? The plastic surgeon was like, okay. So
Sure.
Go ahead.
Yeah, sure.
Go
Go for
ahead.
it.
And, random guy from Eau Claire, Wisconsin, figure out this thing that affects, thousands, millions of women around the world. So he took over my sister's old bedroom in the house we grew up in and learned molding, color matching. And thankfully, my mom is just super, like, she's just so open to kind of whatever. And so she was a very willing partner in this process. It's in the film, but the first person my dad went to was actually our local small town dentist because he's like, well, you take impressions of teeth. Can you make impressions of other body parts? So the dentist is
I got a question.
yeah,
It ain't gonna be weird, but here we go.
And so,
yeah.
Yeah, so
I
go
thought
ahead.
you had a question.
No.
I'm
like,
he was doing a joke.
Yeah.
I'm a comedian.
So that was kind of the beginning of it. But really, he just developed this very bespoke process and created this perfect replacement nipple for my mom. And they showed it to the same plastic surgeon. And he was like, there's nothing else like this for women on the market. Like, you need to offer this to other people. And of course, women and men are affected by breast cancer. And so they turned it into, and like I said, my dad has been an entrepreneur his whole life with very small, little, like, never wants to go into debt. He never wants to have a big, like, little businesses throughout his life. So this wasn't really new in terms of a business sense. But now they turned it into this literal mom and pop business. Mom does customer service because she loves people. Dad is in the nipple laboratory, figuring out the next innovation for nipples. And they've made over 5,000 nipples for women around the world who've suffered this similar thing. And that was completely out of the blue for us kids. We knew something was going on. We knew it was related to mom's breast cancer, but the subject matter and the depth of it was a thing I really didn't discover until I started filming this in 2015.
That is Wild. We're talking to Justin Superstar, who is the director of his own family's story, Mom and Dad's Nipple Factory, which is having its world premiere tomorrow night at the Milwaukee Film Festival, which is the opening film for the festival. And do we have time to play a little bit of the clip?
The phone rang and it was a doctor telling me the results came back cancer and you'll have to have surgery within the next couple of weeks. It does feel strange, even after I had my breast reconstruction, to look in the mirror and just see one nipple. It was just a constant reminder of what cancer had taken from us.
There is no good way to reconstruct the nipple.
And I said, well, can I figure this out?
There was just all of these like swatches and swabs.
It was like very clear he just like didn't want us in there.
Brian's personality is one not to accept the status quo.
The doctor saw that and was pretty impressed.
He was amazed.
Wow! There's clearly a need out there. And they jumped into it.
A lot of us don't know as much about this business as we should.
Because of your mom and dad, when I look in the mirror, I don't say, you've had cancer. He's changed my life that much.
But so many people need this.
And I'm truly grateful to you.
This is a part of their love story. It's a big part of their life. It's not an easy question to respond to when people say, so what kind of work do you do? Brian pretty much avoids it.
I avoid it.
He really does. It's a shame I made a feature film about it.
I know, right? And so we have to go to a break, but when we come back, I want to talk more about like what, as you know, you were a working filmmaker and how different it was to interview your family and how personal it was. And like, did anything, like what surprised you along the way? So we'll talk about that when we come back. Our guest is Justin Superstar, who is the director of Mom and Dad's Nipple Factory, a documentary that will have its world premiere tomorrow night at Milwaukee Film Festival. We will put all of the links to it in our show notes, especially that trailer. If you want to cry, like Jane and I, and now Greg already have. All right, we'll take a break and be right back.
For the future and our goals inside. We know we don't get depressed. Here's what we call wonder where I've been.
Welcome back to As Goes Wisconsin. I am Kristen Bry. She is Jane Matnair. He is Greg Bach. And we are talking to Justin Superstar about his new film that is premiering tomorrow night at Milwaukee Film Festival, Mom and Dad's Nipple Factory, about his family and his parents and a little company that they started to make nipples for women and men who go through mastectomies. And I got to see, well, Jane will have to show you afterwards. We got to see the sample nipple, and it
Looks real?
It looks real. It does look real. And so I guess I'm really interested as a filmmaker how this was to, like, especially because I've never made a documentary. I've wanted to, but as far as sometimes being the documentarian is being the objective storyteller, not always, but often. And this is something that I'm sure it's inextricable from your family and your life and your love. And so what was it like to actually interview your family and like ask questions that maybe were uncomfortable, or like, so what was the process like for you?
It really was. And I think, like I said earlier, it was easier for me to make a documentary about this in some ways than just ask, like, then just tell me, Dad and Mom, why you're doing this. So in a lot of ways, I think it was similar to like a type of therapy, because when you put on that documentary filmmaker hat, there are so many questions and things you take for granted as the child of someone. Oh, I know how they met, or I know this or that, but I'm going to ask it again for the film. And there are questions like that where I thought I knew the answer and I got something totally different from them. And just to be able to have those deep conversations, like I was someone where living in Los Angeles for almost a decade, living in New York City before that, I would go home maybe once or twice a year. And you don't really have those deep conversations after a certain point, certainly when you're growing up. So this was almost this forced way of very intentionally asking these deep questions of my parents. And for everyone, I think parents are these godlike figures when you're a kid. And then there's a point where you're like, oh, my parents are human. Oh, that's weird. Well, I'm going to college and I've got other things to do. And so this was a great way to come back and reconnect. And like I said, the film really is about becoming whole again. My mom becoming whole again, all the women and people that have gone through this to feel whole again. And in the same way, for the family to become whole again, because I had moved just 3 years ago, I moved back to Minneapolis to be closer to my parents. Really, I think a major part of that was being able to really connect with them and come back more and more often, because your parents are a non-renewable resource. If there's stuff that you want to ask them and you never do, there's a point you're never going to get an answer. And so I'm editing, like I said, my dad was always filming our lives. I'm editing 30, 40 years of these sweet home videos of our family. And I'm seeing, here's my mom when she's 30 and here's when she's 40. And I'm scrubbing on the timeline and here she's, 50 and 60. And it just felt like those grains of sand slipping through my fingers even faster. And I'm like, I don't want to miss this, right? And so that was making this film was a major impetus for me to move back to the Midwest just to be closer. And now I can like drive to Eau Claire and have lunch with Dad.
Yeah.
And we can talk about SpaceX or whatever he wants to talk about, and have that relationship that would have been a flight, a checked bag, of this, of that. Yeah. And it just is like, it's, I think 25-year-old Justin would be like, 40-year-old Justin is lame, but it really does matter more as you get older. And I think that's another theme here that should hopefully resonate with a lot of people.
Justin, you totally need to encourage your father to build a rocket. You absolutely need to do that.
A nipple rocket can be done. He may have the tools.
Oh, yes, indeed.
A nipple rocket.
Something we were talking about on the break is you said the importance of this work your parents are doing now is less about money and more about connection to people. And you said specifically the word ministry. Can you talk more about that, please?
Yeah, that and I'm sure my parents don't. I mean, they make like $10,000 a year on this. This is something where their idea of like, I once gave them like $50 to go out to dinner. It took them like 2 months to spend it because their treat is like they go get $1 egg rolls at the place that they like downtown Eau Claire. And so they're extremely frugal, right?
I love your parents so much.
And I think that for them, like this is, my dad doesn't want employees. He doesn't want this business to blow up and be this thing, because that would be a stressor for him. And he's very, he tries to keep things very simple. And so really it's like, this is a ministry. My mom puts a little tract in every one that they send out. It really, and it helps her connect with other people. And for them, it's just this really special, unique way that they can work together in their golden years and be able to really have this thing that is meaningful to them and meaningful to a small other group of people, their customers. And that's the core of it. It's not, people have, we're having a call when early on we're trying to raise money, and someone was like, we can do a bit where your dad goes to China with a suitcase full of nipples and tries to like build the business bigger. I'm like, my dad would disown me if I suggested that. Like, this is not an advertisement for their business. This is their love story.
Yeah.
And the business is just a vehicle for that.
Well, we only have a minute left, but do you know, is it sold out tomorrow night?
I don't think so.
Okay.
So there is availability.
So if you would like to go see this in the Oriental Theater for the Milwaukee Film Fest kickoff, you can go see it tomorrow. If you're watching the live stream, you can see the nipple. I'll screenshot that and tweet it out later. Justin, I can't wait to see this. I feel like might have to try to sneak in there tomorrow night. Mom and Dad's Nipple Factory. Is there a website?
Yes, nipplefactoryfilm.com.
Perfect.
Please get the spelling right.
Yeah, or Nip Factory Film on most socials, just a little shorter.
Thank you so much for spending time with us. This is such a heartwarming story, and I can't wait to see how the film does and how many people it impacts.
I appreciate you guys so much. And it's a little story, but it's a big story, and I really hope people come out to support this film.
Absolutely. All right, well, we're going to take a quick break. Stay with us. This is As Goes Wisconsin. What company has made the biggest change in the convenience of your life? 844-967-2789. What in the 21st century, of all the things that have kind of come along and disrupted an industry, what stands out to you the most? At least is what's changed your life the most? Was it Netflix disrupting Blockbuster, not having to call taxis anymore because Uber and Lyft were around, ordering literally anything you could ever want from Amazon? What was it? 844-967-2789. And I bring this up because Netflix has announced they're ending their mail-in DVD service after 25 years this September. And I think a lot of people went, oh, they're still doing that?
But for some people, that's their lifeline to films.
To films, yeah.
I saw one tweet where someone posted like a picture of a DVD. I don't remember what the DVD was. It said, you can have it when you pry for my cold, dead hand.
And that is a good point. I mean, I remember, though, the mail-in service. Like, we used that.
I remember being confused by it because coming up in a world of Blockbuster, a place where I worked,
you did.
Whatever.
No, that's a compliment. I just say, of course, you fit the stereotype.
The tone didn't feel like it, but no, that world of like, you rent, you watch, you return. If you don't,
rewind.
Exactly. So this idea of like, wait, so what do you mean? You like order a DVD and you just keep it for a month? Yeah. That doesn't make any sense. Like, it just, that first couple of times, like, oh, okay, now I get it. But it was such a huge idea. This thought of, hey, you can have the great outdoors for 3 months if you want. Watch it. Don't watch it. I don't care.
Because at Blockbuster, you had 3 days, or was it 2 days?
2 days for new, 5 days for old.
Yeah, and then you just accrue those fees.
Yep.
If they were late.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden, it was revolutionary to be able to hold on to it. I mean, you were paying for it.
Mm-hmm.
Because you had it, but you could either swap out as much as you wanted or keep it and watch it over and over again.
And that old story of like Netflix came to Blockbuster and says, hey, we got this great idea. And Blockbuster goes, yeah, right. Kick rocks, fellas. Yeah. And whoop, whoop, whoop. And
is there still one Blockbuster? They made that documentary recently. It did close?
It did close. They made a TV show on Netflix about it. Oh my gosh. And it got canceled. And what's funny is when you watch the episodes, they're like, this show's on Netflix. We got to keep this Blockbuster open because places like Amazon can't close us. I'm like, say the other company. But they won't.
Why?
Because it's Netflix.
Oh, because Netflix did the show.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, and so I guess because it got me thinking of what are some of the other, because like that I remember specifically feeling, and then obviously from going from, oh, we don't have to go to the Blockbuster anymore. We could just but then there was overlap for a little while because I remember we also would have, because I was in college, and I remember it's distinctly, it was like a boyfriend that I had, and we would, if we couldn't find the thing that we were going to get mailed in, then we still went to Blockbuster. And so I feel like the real dagger was streaming for Blockbuster.
Yeah. I mean,
because mail-in, so they didn't always have what you needed at first, and sometimes it was out. So you'd still have the opportunity to just like, walk up and down the aisles of Blockbuster. That still feels very different of doing that IRL than like clicking through, even though it was on your TV or your website, of just being like, what's available? And it feels very different than actually getting to touch and see and walk through a Blockbuster.
But even like when you got to the streaming portion of Netflix, and if you still had your DVD system or DVD package, that sense of inconvenience you'd feel when you'd go on Netflix and be like, oh, I'm going to watch this on streaming. It's only available on DVD. You mean I have to go to my website and get and wait? Because it just cut the convenience lower and lower and lower to the point where like nowadays people are like, well, I got to wait 3 days for something from Prime.
Yeah.
What is that?
What is that? I can't just have it immediately.
Yeah.
Like I just Googled, where is the great outdoors streaming, and then 2 minutes later I'm watching it.
Why is there
Throwback.
not a Prime shoot in my house?
Exactly. So, but that it got me thinking of like, what are some of the other services, products, companies of the last 20 plus years that has just changed how we do things and have some nostalgia around it? Like, oh yeah, remember that was cute. Like, I think about how Kodak, like growing up and getting films, like canisters of film developed.
Yeah.
And you had no idea. Like, we were going, I was one of the reasons I was in California was we were at a baby shower and for one of my college friends, and we were at her mom's house, the house she grew up in, and they pulled out baby albums.
Yeah.
And it was funny because there were so many bad pictures of Brie. Like, she was like a 10-pound baby. But it was funny because someone made the point. They're like, you didn't know what picture you got, right? Like, in the snap and shoot camera of 80s, 90s, even 2000s, you couldn't, until the digital camera came, let alone your phone, you couldn't be like, oh, how was that picture? Oh, let's take another one.
Yeah.
Like, you did the whole thing with your mom for Christmas cards where you took the same picture 50 times to make sure that there was a good one in
Oh yeah. And if you were taking a picture of a large family, you'd have to deal with 2 to 5 people blinking.
Oh yeah.
You're like, no, this is what's happening. This is our memory.
And so then you just have like an entire canister of film that's the exact same picture if it was for holidays. But then like every picture, I remember trying to organize my mom's photos once, and it was every picture has like 6 copies because then she would get doubles of each picture. And so the amount of just mediocre to bad photos that we have, but it's also like, oh, do we throw them away? Like, what do you do with them?
The heartbreak.
But it was just funny. So it's like Kodak didn't innovate, like Blockbuster didn't innovate. And so then all of a sudden for a little while, not everyone, but a lot of people had $200, $300, $400 digital cameras.
Yeah.
And then the iPhone.
I would say.
Because do you see anyone carry around a camera anymore? If it's not a DSLR.
No, I have not. I think in the past year, I've seen one person whip out a digital camera and I was like, that's adorable. That's absolutely adorable because that's wires. I just, no. It's not even a point now. And the cameras on phones, I mean, I would even say even your inferior iPhone is gotten better. It's so great that like, why bother?
Yeah.
Why bother?
844-967-2789. What has been a development in the last 20 years that's really changed your life? Karina is on the phone. Thanks for joining us, Karina. What do you want to say?
For me, it would be GPS.
Oh my God.
I don't have a compass at all. I don't know where the sides of the world are. One time I had to drive from Chicago to Milwaukee and it took me 8 hours because I got lost. Yeah, 8 hours. I got lost and I couldn't figure out only how to get out because I saw those nuclear station pipes going into the, which one I'm talking about. We have not the nuclear. Yeah, nuclear station. So, and I was able to go back, Oshkosh, I think. And I was able to go back on the highway to get to Milwaukee. But it took me 8 hours.
Karina, next time, just stay along the lakeshore.
Yeah.
And go north. Thank you so much for checking in.
Karina makes a good point because do you remember MapQuest?
I was just thinking printing them out.
And then, but I mean, that was how when I first got to LA, I think I've said this before. There was the Thomas Guide, which was this thick map book that literally was all of Los Angeles that everyone had in their car.
Yeah.
And you'd look up in the index in the back, the cross streets that you were trying to go to. And then you'd figure out like, I have to take the 101 to the 405, and that was like when I first got out there, how I was finding, like getting to my auditions. And then MapQuest was the thing. And so we could put in the end address and then I'd leave from my house but then if I had multiple auditions in a day, I'd have to go from like place to place to place. So I'd have 10 pages basically and eventually I didn't need that either because I knew Los Angeles well enough. And if you were going to the same studios, you knew. So unless it was some like boutique, tiny casting office, I knew where I was going.
Yeah.
But having just been in Los Angeles again, I was like, man. And then because I don't think like Google Maps I don't think I used regularly until I moved to Berkeley and I was out of Los Angeles. And so like that is, and now I still don't, 3 years in Milwaukee, I'm still like, I need to look up where I'm going.
When Bridget and I went to New Orleans this past January, we thought it'd be fun to get scooters, and there's 2 downfalls with that. One, New Orleans, not a scooter-friendly city, so I don't understand why you'd have scooter sales or rentals there. Also, because we didn't know where anything was, we had to stop every 3 blocks to look at our phone because there was no mounting apparatus. There was so we'd go along, blah blah blah. Here we go. All right, stop. Okay, where are we going? We got to do this. And 3.3. It was miserable because we were like, I don't know how to get anywhere without my phone.
844-967-2789. If you would like to check in, you can call and or text Stephen from Green Bay. Thanks for calling, Stephen. What do you want to say?
Hello, Kristen and Greg. How are you guys doing today?
We're good. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. So I actually hadn't thought about this until you guys brought it up. And then I was down doing laundry, and I kind of had a blast from the past moment. Do you guys remember candy cigarettes and those cap guns?
Oh, yeah.
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 I remember growing up in Baraboo, Wisconsin, with those candy cigarettes running around the streets, capping off those guns. If I would do that today as a child, I'd probably get the cops called on me. But that is something I remembered vividly as a kid. And I also want to point out about the phone camera thing. I actually worked in the cell phone business. I worked for US Cellular. I actually sold phones for that company. And one of the things that I was told to do by my boss on my marketing pitch when I was trying to sell someone a phone is to tell them how much the camera and the phone was worth.
Mm-hmm.
And some of those cameras are worth $700, $800, $900 if you were to buy them in camera form on a smartphone. It's absolutely nuts, the technology that they pack into our mobile computers. They're not really phones. They're computers that make calls. That's what we're carrying around in our pocket.
Yeah,
absolutely. Thanks so much for the call, Stephen. That's like the phone for sure. Phone's probably a pretty obvious one as far as how much it changes the convenience of our life.
What you guys don't remember is having to be at home to get the phone call.
Jane, I ain't that much younger than you. I remember that too. I had a corded phone landline, baby.
You did? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Because again, I think a lot of people, that's why I get so frustrated when I see people in the car with their phones, because back in the olden days, you actually had to be at a place in order to get the call or make the call, and we all lived.
And everyone lived to tell
And
about
everyone
it.
lived.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
What's when phones were connected to wires, people were free or something like that? Which is a little
that's
bit
funny.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing is you see TV shows now that either old shows or whatever that take place in the past, and the parents can't find them because they can't get a hold of them because there's no cell phone.
Yeah.
Half the problems that have happened back in the day would just been like, hey, where are you? I'm at so-and-so's house. There you go. And it's instead of freaking out because I don't know where my child is. Yeah, I also grew up in the time where we had a pager, a family pager.
Nice.
Yeah. That went
family pager.
Yeah. But we also had a car phone and then a cell phone.
Was it in the bag?
Yep. And then we had a cell phone. The cell phone, if you use that phone, you better be telling us your dying wishes, because that phone was never to be used, but for absolute, positively the most emergency of emergencies. And that was never defined. So you just look at the phone going, I'm not touching this. I'm not doing anything with this.
Hot potato.
Because will this call cost me $1,000?
And sometimes it did.
Yeah, it was really expensive.
I remember
oh my
the
gosh,
first time, and then we'll go to break. The first time I took my cell phone, this was my first work trip. I was my first job out of school, working for San Francisco consulting company, and we had our annual thing in Mexico, and I didn't know about roaming charges and data roaming charges on your cell phone.
Oh, mother glory.
And then really had to try to deal with that when I got back, and certainly paid a lot from my little paycheck to learn that lesson. We'll be back in a minute. This is As Goes Wisconsin.
If you're living with chronic pain and have yet to find relief, Select Pain Care of Milwaukee may be able to help. Select Pain Care specializes in helping those that have had their pain for more than 6 months and have tried 3 or more healthcare providers with minimal relief. Find out if Select Pain Care can help you. Call 414-939-5045. That's 414-939-5045. Or log on at selectpaincare.com.
Direct from the Dairy State.
You decided to go. Oh, I need you so. I'm hurt and I want you to know.
Welcome back to As Goes Wisconsin. I am Kristen Bry. She is Jane Madnair. He is Greg Bach. And this show flew by.
It really did.
First show back after a week, just easy. Easy peasy. Pew pew.
Easy squeeze. No, I ruined that one. Easy peasy lemon squeezy.
That's what we're looking for.
Sorry.
But Mr. Greg Bach, who is going to be at the Laughing Tap this weekend?
Oh, what a topical question. It is going to be Gwen LaRocca, Chicago comic. Has been featured on Entre Nos on HBO and is very, very funny. Jane, do we have a clip?
We have a very short clip. Take a listen.
Chi-Chis are everywhere. My friend got hers done. She said they cost her $7,500. I know. I was like, bitch, you don't have a car. She's like, shut up, girl. I don't care. I look good. And I was like, yeah, pendeja, at the bus stop.
we had to pick a short clip because Gwen cusses a lot.
A lot?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she just cussed in Spanish.
Yes, she did. But I was looking for some more clips, and I would have had to have clipped it so much it would completely remove all of the context. So
that's what we got.
She's very funny.
She's very, very funny, and we're very much looking forward to having her at the club. It's going to be 3 shows, 1 Friday, 2 Saturday. Laughingtap.com for more information. And I will put this out right now. If you are interested in seeing the Barons Brothers Comedy Hour,
Barons is in Charlie Barons,
starring Charlie and his brother John. John and Charlie Barons are going to be. Charlie hosts the show. John will be a part of it as well. There's 1 ticket currently.
Wow.
1 ticket, $15. Come on, people.
Wait, and when is that?
Tomorrow night, Thursday.
So tomorrow night, Thursday is the Barons Brothers.
Correct.
Gwen LaRocca is Friday, Saturday.
Correct. And then Sunday, Keg Stand Up at Lakefront Brewery.
It's a busy weekend.
It's a very busy weekend. Like last weekend was 6 shows. This is going to be 5 shows. But hey, we're putting on comedy. We're having fun. But Gwen LaRocca at the Laughing Tap this weekend. 3 shows. It'll be super duper fun.
And we will put the actual clip on the show notes because we have no FCC regulations
Exactly.
there.
Heck yeah.
Exactly.
And do not forget, tickets are $20. There are no drink minimums. So come on down. Drink as little or as much as you'd like, within reason, responsibly, and see some great comedy from up-and-comers.
And also ask for Greg Bach because you've now had not 1, but 2
Yes.
friends of As Goes Wisconsin, listeners who've come to the show and said, "Hey."
Yeah, it's been
Hi.
very fun. I feel very, very honored that you would come and buy tickets and see shows at the club and come on down. Make it a regular thing, people.
And how would it, for people who don't watch the live stream, if you were to say what you look like,
oh my God,
and to have them know which one is you, how would you describe? Because I would describe, you're fairly a distinct looking person, but I would love to know how you describe yourself.
When you walk in, just immediately look for Santa's white trash nephew. He was full of promise in his 20s, slowly sliding down that hill of mediocrity into a pit of ginger beer and despair.
I wouldn't. Hey, that's my friend you're talking about. I would have never. Maybe would have said Santa.
Yeah, like biker Santa.
Biker Santa.
Yeah.
That's
What would
a little
you,
bit nicer.
if you describe me, how would you describe me?
Something closer to that. I would.
Yeah.
Say, would have said like, looks like he belongs on Sons of Anarchy, but also is like a Care Bear on the inside.
Girl. I'm Biker Bear.
Biker Bear.
Love it. That's perfect.
So you say more about the Charlie Barron's because that's going to be a recurring show.
Yeah, it's gonna be a monthly show. I think we've settled on third Thursday of the month. So the next one I believe is going to be on the 20th of May or whatever that date is. We'll announce that immediately after tomorrow, and tickets will go on sale immediately. Well, but this is Charlie wanting to do some stand up, trying to work on some new stuff. He's hosting the show, and then he's bringing along, and John and he are booking the show accordingly with the comedians they want to see on stage. So this week will be John, and I'm blanking on. It's gonna be Ton Johnson, John
Back from Chicago.
Well, for the moment, yeah. I'm still not talking about moving. I'm very upset about that. But he's gonna basically have his regulars.
Okay.
So the people who regularly open for him are gonna be opening this show or doing this show with Mr. Michael Rofo, I believe is his name, headlining the show, if you will. So Charlie hosts, get the new material out there to the world and having a good time. And this is just, so if you got tickets already, if you're interested in getting that ticket, this is not his regular show he does in theaters. This is a strictly stand-up show, very fun, laid back, working on stuff, but still come out and see it. It's going to be a great time. And you're going to have a blast, and you're going to be in a great little room. Because, I mean, nowadays you get to see Charlie at the Riverside and
big theaters.
And that's great for him. But, man, it's a little more intimate now.
Well, and what I think, too, is cool, too, Greg, is you can see some of the stuff that he's working on in its earlier form.
Mhm.
And then eventually
Absolutely.
when he hones it down a little bit, you'll finally see the final product. I think that's a great way to look at the process of comedy.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the thing with Hari Kondabola's weekend. He's starting a brand new hour now because his new
Mhm.
special just dropped yesterday on YouTube. Vacation Baby, check it out. Is that one thing we don't talk about with Charlie is how much stand-up he does in his show. He does a lot of music. He does the news update. He does the characters, but he does stand-up,
Mhm.
and he's a good stand-up. And I think that this is your opportunity to see him in that more singular idea.
Well, and also see him as himself versus the character.
Correct. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So I just want to make sure everybody knows when they walk in, they're not going to be getting the theater show. They'll be getting something different, something special, I believe.
And I think that's awesome. See,
Yeah.
so many worlds coming together. You're here. Charlie Barron's is on Saturdays on Civic Media and Sundays. And now he's at the Laughing Tap.
Yeah, baby.
It's a big love fest over here with Civic Media, Laughing Tap, Manitowoc Minute.
Oh, sorry, folks. That
Sold
ticket's
out.
just sold.
Just sold. So you're going to have to go to the May show
Yep.
instead, which we will give you plenty of notice for that. But for us, that about does it for today. We'll be back tomorrow with a whole new As Goes Wisconsin. Thank you for calling. Thank you for texting. Thank you for listening. We'll see you tomorrow.
And there's no